I was honestly getting bored of drawing for a while. You know that weird phase where nothing feels inspiring enough to even pick up the pencil? I'd scroll through reference images and swipe left on everything. And then I found this killer reference. It was a close up of a girl with wet, messy hair falling all over her face. Her makeup, especially the mascara, was smudged and dropping down with tears. Her skin was shiny and wet, like she had just come out of rain or something emotional had just happened. And her expression, it wasn't just sadness, it felt deep, real, and full of emotion. That messy look, the water on her face, the dark shadows around her eyes, it felt so powerful and dramatic. Right then, I knew I have to draw this. So I took it as a challenge to draw this emotional portrait using just charcoal. My goal was to match the feel of the photo, the dark mood, the shine on the skin, the wet look of makeup, and the strong emotion in her eyes. And in this tutorial, I'll show you the full process step by step, starting from shading the background to creating wet skin texture, smudged mascara, hair strands, and adding small details and highlights. It's going to be dark, dramatic, and very real. So grab your tools and let's bring this powerful image to life. Before we begin any shading, the most important step is creating a strong outline. This is the structure of the drawing. If the outlines is wrong, no amount of shading can fix it. So take your time here. I started with the grid method, which is very helpful when you're working with the realistic portrait like this one. Use an HP pencil for sketching the outline. It is hard enough to make clean lines, but soft enough to erase later if needed. Start lightly, don't press too hard. You only need soft visible lines as a guide. Remember, the goal here isn't to make the drawing look finished yet, it's just the skeleton. Keep it light, simple, and clean. If you need to erase and adjust a few lines, go ahead. Accuracy is more important than speed. Once the outline is done, we can start building atmosphere around the portrait, and that starts with shading the background. The background plays a big role in making your subject stand out. In this portrait, the background is dark and soft. It helps create contrast against the wet and glowing highlights on the face. So let's build it step by step. First, take a soft brush. Dip the tip of the brush into the charcoal powder. Then gently tap off the excess. Start applying it in circular motions around the head and shoulders. Use light pressure and build the tone slowly. You'll notice the powder spreading smoothly. Blend the charcoal evenly to avoid patchy areas. If you see uneven spots, go over them again with the brush or use a makeup sponge to even out the tone. The sponge presses the powder into the paper, giving it a smoother look. Now look at your reference image and observe where the background is darkest. Usually it's darker near the top of the head and around the sides of the hair. Deepen those areas by applying a second layer of charcoal powder. Use the same brush, but this time press a little harder to add more depth. This background step is not just about filling space, it helps to set the mood of the portrait. With the outlines and background done, now comes one of the most important and visually striking parts of this portrait, the hair around the forehead and the skin beneath it. Begin with the darkest part of the hair, which sits just above the forehead. Take your sharpened charcoal pencil and gently start shading the hair root area. This is where the hair begins at the top of the head and flows down toward the forehead. Use short layered strokes to build rich dark tones. Also draw all the individual hair strands coming over the forehead. Now take a small soft brush and blend the charcoal pencil strokes to smooth out the base layer of the hair. Blend in the same direction as the hair flow from the roots downward. This helps soften the texture. Be gentle so you don't overblend and lose your definition. As you blend, you'll notice charcoal dust building up on the paper. Gently blow away the dust. We want the area clean and smooth before moving on to the skin. With the dark hair above complete, it is time to build the base tone of the forehead. This gives us a soft foundation before we add shadows and highlights. Dip a medium soft brush into charcoal powder. Tap off the excess, then apply it over the entire forehead using gentle circular motions. Start from the center and blend outward. Keep the layer even and light. Avoid going too dark too soon. The forehead needs soft contrast so we can build highlights and wet texture later. Be careful around the edges, especially where the hair meets the skin, and softly blend those transition areas. Now let's go back with your sharpened charcoal pencil. Start drawing the eyebrow hair. Follow the direction and flow of the hair exactly as in the reference image. Then blend it with small brush. Next, go under the hair strands and add small shadows where they touch or stick to the forehead. These shadows are important. They give the illusion that the strand is lying on top of wet skin, not floating in the air. Blend those small shadows slightly with tiny blending brush. Make sure they're soft and don't overpower the highlights we will add next. Now it's time to make the hair look wet and reflective. Take your Mono Zero eraser, make sure the tip is clean and sharp, and begin erasing thin highlights on a few key strands. These are the parts where the light hits the wet surface of the hair. Focus especially on the central strands or those closest to the light source in your reference. These reflective accents make the hair look shiny, soaked, and alive. Now return to the forehead skin to add glowing wet highlights. Still using the Mono Zero eraser, tap and lift tiny highlights in the center of the forehead, between the eyebrows, and around the areas just under the hair. These should feel like soft, irregular textures, not perfect circles. This creates the base layer of wet skin texture. You can gently work in circular motions across the forehead. This helps blend some of the eraser marks back in and creates the effect of subtle skin pores. Use the stump to push around the charcoal slightly and add depth between the highlight areas. You can even shade over some parts again to bring back midtones where needed. Realistic skin should have sharp, soft, and faded texture. Don't be afraid to go back and forth, erase, blend, darken, then lift the highlights again. It is all about building layers slowly. As a final touch, add some individual flying hairs to make everything feel natural and alive. With your charcoal pencil sharpened to a fine point, draw thin random strands coming off the main hair. Let some fly slightly to the sides or curve gently downward. These little flyover strands add movement and break the symmetry. You can also add few strands that rest lightly on the forehead skin, crossing over highlights or blending into shadows. If needed, add faint shadows beneath these new strands for realism. To enhance this separation, use Mono Zero eraser between overlapping strands. This cuts light between them and gives depth like real hair. And now we've created one of the most eye-catching parts of the portrait, realistic shiny hair falling across a wet textured forehead. The combination of soft shading, sharp details, and layered highlights gives the drawing its unique emotion and atmosphere. Now let's move down to the eye. It is the heart of this portrait, full of story, full of emotion. But in this artwork, it's not just a normal eye. It's wet, expressive, and surrounded by smudged, running mascara as if it has been through tears. Before any shading begins, check your outline of the eye. Make sure the shape is accurate. Look at the top eyelid, the curve of the lower lash line, the position of the tear duct, and the iris. A slight tilt or incorrect shape here can change the entire emotion. Use your charcoal powder to create a dark shadow under the top eyelid, just above the eyeball. This shadow is key. It adds depth and shows how the eyelid curves over the eye. Then begin darkening the entire eye socket area above the eyebrow, under the eye, and toward the cheek. This portrait has heavy makeup and a dramatic lighting angle, so this area is darker than usual. Layer gradually and blend in all directions. Now take your sharpened charcoal pencil and begin working on the iris. Start by darkening the pupil, the center black circle. Make it solid and dark. Then lightly shade outward from the pupil into the iris. Leave a tiny highlight in the iris, either by avoiding it while shading or lifting it later with a Mono Zero eraser. This highlight is what makes the eye look wet and alive. Many beginners make the mistake of leaving the eyeball pure white, but in realism, even the white of the eye has shading. Use a very light layer of charcoal powder to create a soft base tone on the eyeball. Blend it gently with a small brush. Keep the center area of the eyeball slightly lighter. That's where we'll add reflections later. Darken the corners slightly, especially near the tear duct and where the eye curves into the skin. This helps the eye sit realistically inside the socket. Once the shadows and mascara streaks are in place, it's time to bring back skin texture around the eye area. Use your Mono Zero eraser to tap lightly along the cheekbone and under eye region. You can also use the eraser to carve soft highlight lines along the edge of the mascara streaks. This creates the illusion of wetness reflecting light. Add some highlights near the lower lid where the tear duct might glisten. Avoid making everything bright, just create tiny variations that feel like wet skin under smudged makeup. Now with the same techniques, shade out another eye. Now for the final, sharpest highlights, the reflections that make the eye pop. Use your white jelly roll pen to add a tiny white dot in the iris or pupil. Place highlight dots on the wet lash line. Add shine marks along the thickest mascara streaks. Create a small white streak where a tear or reflection might catch the light. These tiny touches make the eye feel alive, glossy, and emotional. With this, also add brightest highlights on the forehead. Be careful not to overuse the pen. Use it only where contrast is strong. Now that we've brought the eye to life with rich shadow and mascara, the emotion continues to flow quite literally down to the right cheek. This area isn't just skin, it's a canvas for drama. The mascara streaks down like tears, mixing with moisture on the cheek. This step is where the portrait begins to feel human, with a delicate glow, subtle skin texture, and running makeup that draws the viewer's attention. First, draw the hair strands around the cheek as we discussed on forehead, and then begin by identifying the area of the right cheek. It starts just beneath the eye socket and extends toward the edge of the face, slightly curving along the cheekbone. Take your medium-sized soft brush and dip it lightly into charcoal powder. Tap off any extra dust. Begin applying the base shade in soft circular motions, covering the entire cheek area. Make sure to keep your pressure light, avoid harsh edges, let the base gradually fade toward the jawline. Now we carry the story from the eye downward by creating mascara streaks that trail over the cheek. These should feel natural, as if the mascara has melted or washed down from the eye. Use your sharpened charcoal pencil and draw thin uneven lines extending from under the eye downward toward the mid-cheek. These streaks should vary in length and thickness, be slightly curved, not perfectly straight, fade as they move lower down. Some streaks can be short and dark, clumping near the eye. Others can be long, fading halfway across the cheek. You can also draw two streaks merging or one splitting at the end like water drips. To make them look real, darken the top part of each streak slightly. Smudge the edges slightly. Wet mascara doesn't have perfect borders. This gives the illusion that the makeup has melted and trailed down with moisture clinging to the cheek. Now with the cheek toned and the streaks placed, it's time to add skin texture to bring realism. Take your razor and begin tapping on the cheek surface. You're not erasing large areas, just lifting tiny highlights that mimic pores, shine, and moisture. Focus especially on the upper area of the cheekbone, areas surrounding the streaks, but not directly on them, places where light naturally falls in the reference image. Use a mix of dots, short lines, and light tapping to keep the texture irregular. Skin is not uniform. It has pores, tiny bumps, and reflective spots. These micro highlights will catch the light and create a glowing, dewy look. Avoid over erasing. The texture should be subtle, just enough to feel like skin. If you have hair strands falling over or near the cheek or in the outer side of hair, now's the time to draw them. Use your charcoal pencil and draw thin, light curves that follow gravity. Some can gently touch the skin, others can fly outwards. As the portrait flows downward from the eye and right cheek, Our next destination is the nose, a structure that connects both sides of the face, tying everything together. In many drawings, the nose is either underdone or overdefined. But in realism, the nose should feel like it naturally belongs there, shaped by light and form, not by outlines. So, in this part, we'll carefully shade the entire nose first, adding volume, softness, and moisture. Then we'll move to the left cheek. Start with your medium sized soft brush and lightly load it with charcoal powder. Using gentle circular motions, apply an even base tone across the entire nose, including the bridge, sides, and tip. Keep your touch light, especially at the top ridge and tip, where the highlights will later go. Let the tone fade smoothly into the forehead and cheeks without hard lines. This layer sets the groundwork for all your shadows and blends to come. It should look soft and slightly hazy, like a real nose under diffuse light. Now concentrate more powder to shade along the side in vertical from the inner eyebrows down to the nostrils. Now pick up your charcoal pencil, sharpen to a fine point. Start with the nostrils, define the nostrils very carefully. Instead of drawing an outline, shade the inside in a semicircular motion and blend the outer edges for realism. Use gradual shading and soft blending to let the edges fade naturally into the cheek. If your reference has any reflected light on the lower nose, leave a soft thin gap between the dark nostril area and the cheek shadow. Now use a small blending brush or blending stump to blend every shaded area in the direction of the curves, from bridge to tip, from nostrils to cheeks, from under the nose to upper lip. This blending gives the nose a 3D sculpted look, not with outlines but through light and shadow. The nose often reflects light more than other facial features, especially the tip, the bridge, and the top curve of the nostrils. Use your Mono Zero eraser to add very tiny highlight dots around the tip or bridge, mimicking natural skin reflection. Gently lift out a thin line of highlight down the center ridge of the nose. Tap softly to create a glowing dot at the tip of the nose. This combination of glow and texture will make the nose look moist and soft. For that final pop of realism, use your white jelly roll pen sparingly. Add one small white dot at the center of the nose tip where light hits strongest. Add tiny reflective dots on one side of the bridge or top of a nostril, only where it's dark enough for contrast. Be careful not to overuse the pen here. One or two controlled highlights can elevate realism, while too many will make it look artificial. Once you are happy with the form and glow, it's time to move sideways to the left cheek. Just like we did with the right cheek, we'll start the left cheek by applying a smooth base tone using charcoal powder. But this cheek is different. It's more exposed to light, so we'll be more selective. Take your soft brush, gently load it with charcoal powder, and shade the cheek with soft circular motions. The different thing here is the mascara streak, which is not that dark as in right cheek, so observe that reference image and try to create the same. You should already begin to see the contrast forming, dark shadows around the outer face and the glowing light area near the eye and cheekbone. Avoid pressing hard. We're preparing this cheek for intense controlled highlights. Now concentrating more charcoal powder, add soft depth around any nearby hair strands or falling shadow areas. Blend the shadows with a small brush, creating a subtle gradient from the edges toward the glowing center. This process creates the illusion of a rounded lifted cheekbone, even before adding highlights. This is where the magic happens. Now we'll make the cheek glow with soft and intense highlights. Start with your Mono Zero eraser. Gently tap random small dots around that area to create broken light texture. Drag softly outward in short curves to shape the reflection and follow the cheek's curve. Lift a soft curved oval in the center of the cheekbone. This lifted glow should feel natural, not geometric like scattered reflection on moist skin. Now pick up your white jelly roll pen. Add 1 to 3 tiny highlight dots right in the center of the glow area. Use the pen to enhance the edge of a lifted wrinkle or a reflective bump. These tiny pen details will make the cheeks sparkle gently like light dancing on smooth moist skin. With the nose fully shaped and the left cheek glowing with soft light, the portrait now feels complete from top. As we reach the lips, we come to one of the most delicate and expressive parts of the face. The lips in this portrait are soft, slightly moist, and full of character. They're not just lips, they carry silence, emotion, tension, or softness, depending on how we shade them. Before shading, study your reference image closely. Once you understand the structure, everything you draw will feel more realistic and correctly placed. Start by using your soft brush dipped lightly in charcoal powder. Gently apply a base tone over both the upper and lower lips. Use circular or horizontal motion to follow the natural curvature of the lips. Keep the center of the lower lip a bit lighter for now, it'll hold your glow. Apply slightly more powder to the sides and corners of the lips where it's naturally darker. This base layer sets a smooth foundation and softens the area before any pencil detailing. Now take your charcoal pencil and start defining the depth and darkness inside the mouth. This is the darkest part. Use short strokes and build depth gradually, and blend the charcoal softly to over the teeth to add base shading on them. Next, define the corners of the lips. This shadow helps push the lips forward and makes them look three-dimensional. Always follow the natural shape of the lips. Lips aren't smooth, they have fine lines, curves, and wrinkles that form their texture. With your sharpened charcoal pencil, or you can use HP graphite pencil too, and begin drawing fine curved lines across both lips. These should curve slightly upward on the upper lip, curve downward and flatter on the lower lip. Vary in length, thickness, and spacing. Don't make the lines all the same. Some can be short, some long, some can fade midway. These irregularities will make the lips feel natural. After drawing the lines, gently blend them with a small hard brush to soften their edges and give them a more skin-like feel. You're not erasing them, just blending the base. Now it's time to bring moisture and light into the lips. Take your Mono Zero eraser and begin lifting soft highlights in the center of the lower lip, the upper curve of the top lip. You can also tap lightly along the lip surface to mimic moisture. These highlights should be soft and broken, not harsh lines. We've shaped the emotion in the eyes, built softness in the lips, and added glow to the skin. Now, as we move into the final part of the portrait, our focus shifts downward to the chin, the hair strands that fall on the shoulder and the neck. This area might seem less dramatic than the face, but it's what gives your portrait stability, balance, and a natural finish. With the right shading and texture, the lower half of the portrait will gently guide the viewer's eyes downward, wrapping the whole image in quiet realism. Start by identifying the chin area clearly. It sits just below the lower lip and curves into the jawline. The chin should feel subtle and soft, with smooth transitions into both the cheeks and the neck. Use a medium soft brush dipped in charcoal powder and apply a light paste tone across the entire chin. Use small circular motions for even coverage. Keep the center of the chin lighter. This is often the most highlighted area. Once the base is in, concentrate more charcoal and gently darken the lower part of the chin where it curves under. This helps create roundness and volume. Blend the edges into the surrounding tone using a small blending brush. And also use your charcoal pencil to draw the shadow of the lower lip. The goal is to sculpt the chin gently. Avoid any harsh lines. Now, take your Mono Zero eraser or pencil eraser and tap lightly to lift soft highlights in the center of the chin. Use short strokes to suggest skin texture. These lifted areas give the chin a natural glow, not shiny like lips but softly reflective. Now let's move to one of the most graceful elements, the loose hair strands that flow across or rest on the shoulder. First, take a moment to observe the direction and flow of these strands in your reference. Are they straight or wavy? Do they cross each other? Do some disappear behind the shoulder? Use your sharpened charcoal pencil to draw thin, confident lines, following the natural fall of each strand. Keep your hand relaxed and let the strands curve naturally. To make the hair look more realistic, vary the thickness of the strands. Some thin, some slightly thicker. Group a few strands together while letting others stay isolated. Once the strands are placed, use a small brush or blending stump to soften the inner area of thicker strands. Add a sense of depth and roundness. Then, now it's time to unify the portrait by finishing the neck and shoulder area. Start by laying a smooth charcoal powder base over the neck with your medium brush. Use gentle strokes and avoid pressing too hard. The skin here should look soft and even. Next, pick up your charcoal pencil and shade the sides of the neck where shadows naturally form due to curvature. Area under the chin, which is usually darker and helps the chin stand out. Hollow between the collarbones if visible in your reference. Blend all shaded areas with a soft brush or blending stump, always maintaining soft transitions. The key here is balance. You want some shadows for form, but you also want the neck and shoulders to feel lighter and softer than the face so they don't distract. Now to finish the skin around the neck and shoulders, use your Mono Zero eraser again to tap light highlight dots near the collarbone. Add a soft highlight glow in the middle of the neck or wherever the light is hitting. If the neck has soft moisture or light reflection, lightly tap in irregular dots or curves with the eraser to simulate that glowing texture. Then blend gently around it. Finish this by using the jelly roll pen to place one or two tiny reflective highlights where the light is strongest. You can also add shine on hair strands that cross over the skin. Again, keep these jelly roll highlights minimal and strategic. They should guide the eye, not overwhelm it. Now zoom out and observe the entire lower portion of the portrait. Does the chin feel soft? Are the hair strands flowing naturally? Do the shoulders and neck blend into the background gently? Use your kneadable eraser to clean any extra powder or smudges. Darken or soften areas that feel off balance. Add final details or erase small highlights wherever needed. You can also use a large soft brush to lightly brush over the entire chin to shoulder zone to unify it and tone down any harsh areas. And with that final stroke, the portrait is complete. What began as a few light outlines has now become something alive, filled with light, shadow, moisture, and mood. Whether you followed along with charcoal, graphite, or your own favorite tools, I hope this tutorial helped you slow down, observe more deeply, and grow as an artist. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth tutorials. Your support helps me create more art, and your feedback keeps these tutorials alive. And if you recreated this artwork, don't forget to tag me on Instagram. Link is in description. I do love to see your version and share your progress. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.